Welcome. We are embarking on a truly comprehensive examination of the digital behemoth that shapes how billions of us connect, communicate, and consume information.
We're talking about the social media service Facebook, which of course is the flagship property of Meta platforms.
That's right. And we are going through the substantial documentation and research you provided to really extract the most essential insights and map out the true contours of its global influence.
This is a massive undertaking, precisely because of the platform's scale and its complexity. Our goal today is to give you a thorough understanding of its entire story.
Where do we even begin with a story this big?
Well, we'll start with its college origins, then move through the ingenious technical foundations that allowed it to scale so rapidly. We'll track its unprecedented global growth, and most importantly, grapple with the profound critical issues.
And there are many. We're talking about privacy crises, content moderation failures.
Exactly. And its undeniable impact on both democracy and, individual psychological well-being. We want this discussion to provide quick, thorough knowledge, not just a flood of information.
The scale is, frankly, just astonishing. To set the stage, let's remember the very beginning. Facebook was officially founded back in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg alongside 4 other Harvard students.
Right. His roommates and classmates, Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. The entire concept was derived from those physical Facebook directories that U.S. universities would hand out.
Just to help students identify one another, a simple idea.
A simple idea, but that concept of identification and network linkage proved instantly viral. Initially, membership was incredibly constrained. It started only with Harvard students.
And that controlled rollout created this immediate sense of exclusivity, of desirability.
It did, and then it expanded systematically to other North American universities before, crucially, opening its doors to everyone globally aged 13 and older in September 2006.
And that date really marks its transformation, doesn't it? From a campus tool into a global public utility.
That initial strategy led directly to its current mind-bending scale. As of the end of 2023, Facebook claimed just under 3.07 billion monthly active users.
Let's just pause on that number. The global population is around 8 billion people, so that means nearly 40% of the people on the planet with internet access are using the service every month.
Exactly. And its visibility reflects that. As of mid-2025, the platform was ranked as the 3rd most visited website globally.
Its dominance in the mobile sphere is also historic. I believe it was the most downloaded mobile application of the entire 2010s decade.
It was. But the sheer utility and the growth are constantly overshadowed by this tension that's presented in all the documents we've looked at.
That tension really is the core of our analysis today. For every milestone of growth, there seems to be a corresponding critique that is only intensified over time.
The platform faces continuous scrutiny. There are deep concerns over user privacy, powerfully exemplified by the Cambridge Analytica data scandal.
And allegations of political manipulation influencing elections globally. Not to mention the serious medically documented concerns regarding psychological effects.
Like addiction, low self-esteem fueled by social comparison, and of course, the platform's role as an amplifier for fake news and organized hate speech.
So we're looking at a company that is simultaneously a technological marvel and, you could say, a governance nightmare.
That's a perfect way to put it. And understanding how it got here requires us to start at the very beginning, not just with the formal launch, but with the incident that came right before it.
Okay, let's unpack that origin story, because it's full of clues about the company's early priorities, particularly around data usage. Before the launch of what was then called the Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg built a site in October 2003 called FaceMash.
Right, and FaceMash was highly controversial from the moment it went live. It was essentially a crude digital version of the website, hot or not.
So it was designed to allow users to rate the attractiveness of 2 people side by side.
It was. But the crucial issue was the data source. Zuckerberg had illicitly obtained the photographs by hacking into the online student Facebook directories of several Harvard dormitories.
And what were the immediate consequences of this unauthorized data scraping? I mean, he must have gotten into serious trouble.
Oh, it led to a major incident. He was reported to the university administration and faced serious disciplinary action, including the possibility of expulsion for violating privacy and security protocols.
So the charges were eventually dropped.
They were. But the episode sets an immediate precedent. This early willingness to prioritize rapid product development over, let's say, strict adherence to privacy norms. This pattern of pushing boundaries for growth would become a recurring theme.
So after the face mesh fallout, the Facebook officially launched on February 4, 2004, a more controlled, network-focused experience, and the initial investment was surprisingly small.
It was minimal for what it became, just $1,000, contributed by Zuckerberg and his co-founder, Eduardo Saverin. They weren't flying solo for long, though.
Right. The documents show that Dustin Moskovitz, Andrew McCollum, and Chris Hughes joined very shortly after the launch.
They had to. They needed help managing the rapid, almost overwhelming expansion of the site across multiple college campuses.
And the influx of talent and capital accelerated pretty quickly after that. Who are the key external figures who helped turn this project into a proper startup?
Two figures were absolutely pivotal in that transformation. First, Sean Parker, the co-founder of Napster. He became the company president in 2004.
And he helped guide their move to Palo Alto, California, providing that early strategic direction.
He did. And second, and this was crucial, PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel provided the service with its essential first seed investment.
Thiel's belief really gave the company the capital and, I suppose, the legitimacy to leave the dorm room behind.
Absolutely. It wasn't until 2005, after securing a larger financial footing, that the company purchased the domain name Facebook.com and officially dropped the from its branding.
The technical challenge of scaling a simple college script to a platform serving billions of users is just enormous. Let's pivot to the architecture. What was the original foundation, and why did it become such a problem so fast?
Well, the initial technical decision was dictated entirely by speed. It was built using PHP, a popular scripting language known for getting web projects deployed very rapidly.
Which is perfect for a small college project, but not for what this was becoming.
Exactly. PHP is an interpreted language, not fully compiled, which means it's inherently slower than compiled code. As the user base exploded, they immediately ran into severe scalability and performance issues that standard PHP infrastructure simply couldn't handle.
So they faced that classic startup dilemma. Do you rewrite the entire massive codebase in a faster language like C++ or Java, or do you find a way to accelerate the PHP you already have?
They chose the latter, and the technical fix was revolutionary. It was the hip-hop virtual machine, or HHVM.
So instead of scrapping their vast existing PHP codebase, engineers created this specialized tool.
That's right. You can think of a virtual machine as an optimized environment that reads the original high-level code. But instead of interpreting it line by line, which is slow, HHVM translates it into machine code ahead of time. It uses a method called just-in-time compilation.
So it's like building a lightning-fast dictionary and phrase book first, instead of just translating the book page by page.
That's a perfect analogy. HHVM significantly improved the execution performance and efficiency of that existing PHP code. This single innovation was absolutely vital.
It must have saved the engineering team an immense amount of work.
It did. It allowed them to maintain speed and handle the rapidly increasing global user load without having to start over from scratch. It's one of the great unsung heroes of their technical story.
And even with that innovation, the scale of the application itself is immense. If we look at the architecture from around 2012, the documents describe it as one singular, gigantic application.
That's right. Facebook operates as one singular monolithic application. So a single program handles everything from profiles to feeds to messages. An engineer detailed that this application compiles into a massive 1.5 gigabyte binary blob.
A single compiled file of code. What's truly remarkable is not just the size, but how they deploy it globally without any interruption. How do you roll out a file that big to every server across the world multiple times a day without the site ever going down?
They use a custom internal distribution system based on BitTorrent.
The file sharing technology.
Exactly. They repurpose that peer-to-peer technology internally, allowing servers to share pieces of the compiled code base rapidly and simultaneously. This incredible system allowed them to achieve zero downtime during daily rollouts.
So the entire build and distribution process completes in about 30 minutes.
Roughly, yes. It's a logistical marvel that ensures consistency and speed across their massive server farms.
And that capability for smooth, high-speed deployment is absolutely necessary when you consider the intense, constant data flow they manage. Every time someone posts or likes something, that's a data event.
The data flow is built for extremely high input and output demands. It utilizes multiple systems working in concert. For distributed data storage, they rely on a platform based on HBase.
And crucially, all user interactions, the moment you click, like the moment you upload a photo, are not processed immediately into the main database, right? They're logged first.
Correct. They're first logged in a distributed file system using a tool called Scribe. You can think of Scribe as a giant, ubiquitous receipt printer, logging everything in huge files.
So what manages this enormous influx of event data from Scribe?
This data is then aggregated from multiple Scribe stores by an internally built tool called Tail. Tail effectively watches all those log files and sends the aggregated data to the next stage.
Which is a tool called Puma. And what is Puma's role in this continuous cycle?
Puma is the dedicated processing engine. It handles batch processing of that aggregated data every 1.5 seconds. This strategy of processing data in high-speed batches is necessary to lessen the load on the system.
Especially when a single hot article, a viral post, or breaking news generates huge spikes in traffic.
Exactly. It prevents bottlenecks. The end result is that when you click refresh, the page loads quickly, and all that raw data remains queryable via tools like Hive, which also serves as a critical data backup source.
It's a testament to engineering necessity driving innovation. And before we move on, there's that small, fun visual detail that is widely known but always worth repeating.
The color.
The primary color is blue. And this wasn't a corporate branding choice initially.
No, it was simply because Mark Zuckerberg is red-green colorblind, and blue was the color he could perceive most clearly and vividly. It determined the entire visual identity of the platform.
Moving from the sophisticated infrastructure to the actual user experience, the success of the platform rests on features that are designed to be sticky, engaging, and critically, to draw users back in repeatedly.
Absolutely. The user profile itself has been a continuous work in progress, but one of the major shifts occurred in September 2011 with the introduction of the timeline.
The timeline was significant not just aesthetically, but because it placed a user's entire history front and center. It changed the profile from a static bulletin board into a chronological narrative.
That's right. It was essentially a personalized digital biography. It allowed for the expressive cover photo, and because it laid out a user's history so explicitly, it demanded, and eventually offered, more granular privacy settings.
Giving users better control over who saw what portions of their personal narrative?
Exactly. And a foundational interactive element, perhaps one of the most successful features early on, was photo integration.
Users gained the ability to upload albums with up to 200 photos each, and they could apply individual privacy settings to each album.
But the real game changer wasn't the photo storage. It was the tagging.
Can you explain the mechanism of photo tagging and why it was so powerful?
The feature was developed by Aaron Siddig and Scott Marlett in 2006. Its brilliance lies in its network effect. When a user tags a friend in a photo, that friend is immediately notified with a direct link.
And that simple notification acts as a powerful lever, pulling the friend back into the content, back onto the site.
Right, and often prompting them to tag others. It was a self-perpetuating mechanism for re-engagement.
And this concept of simple, rapid interaction culminated in the iconic like button, first launched in February 2009. That thumbs-up icon became the universal currency of digital approval.
It did, and it immediately became the platform's core metric of interaction. The function was extended to comments in 2010. The fundamental purpose of the like button was twofold. It showed approval, and it acted as a signal to the algorithm.
So content that received more likes was instantly deemed more relevant and therefore more likely to appear higher in friends' news feeds,
Driving engagement exponentially. However, the simple binary nature of like quickly proved inadequate for complex human emotions.
Right. If a friend posted about a sad event, liking it just felt inappropriate.
Exactly. The lack of emotional nuance was a persistent critique. This led to its crucial evolution in 2016 into reactions. Users were given 5 predefined emotional responses in addition to the like,
Love, haha, wow, sad, or angry.
which allowed the platform to gather much richer emotional data. Later, they added a specific care reaction in April 2020 during the early height of the COVID-19 pandemic, acknowledging that global health crisis.
Let's discuss the central hub of content aggregation, the newsfeed. For us today, it's just how the site works. But when it launched in 2006, it was met with a monumental user revolt.
It caused widespread panic and anger. Users complained strongly that it was too cluttered and, critically, that it turned the platform into a surveillance tool.
It made tracking individual activities like subtle relationship status changes or constant updates on private friend activities too easy. People felt exposed.
They felt stalked, frankly. Must have been a terrifying moment for the young company.
How did they respond to that intense backlash?
Zuckerberg was forced to issue a public apology, which was a rare move for him at the time. He specifically apologized for failing to include appropriate privacy features at launch.
And this crisis led directly to users gaining more granular, immediate control over what types of information were shared automatically in the feed.
It did. And this whole episode reinforced the tension that would define the next decade. Rapid deployment of a feature, followed by user backlash, followed by a privacy fix.
And that necessity to organize an overwhelming volume of content led to the creation of the algorithm that now secretly guides billions of viewing habits.
That is EdgeRank. EdgeRank is the original name for the algorithm that governs the sorting and display of every story in a user's newsfeed. It works by assigning weights to 3 factors.
Affinity, which is how close you are to the content creator. Weight, so the type of content like photos being weighted higher than text. And time decay.
How recently the content was posted. This is why you don't see things in strict chronological order. You see what the algorithm thinks you should see.
It's the platform's editor-in-chief essentially deciding what reality you consume. And we saw a major philosophical shift in 2018 regarding that editorial policy.
Yes, there was a public announcement that the company was specifically attempting to de-emphasize content from media companies and prioritize sharing from friends and family.
It was presented as an effort to improve user well-being, but it also dramatically impacted the business models of publishers who relied on the platform for traffic.
It showed that the platform can pivot its entire content ecosystem with a single algorithmic tweak.
Beyond the feed, we have the messaging system, which evolved from a simple internal chat to a robust, multifunctional product messenger.
Messenger's evolution is a perfect study in corporate segmentation. It began as Facebook Chat in 2008, but became a mandatory standalone mobile application in 2011.
Forcing users to download a separate app if they wanted to message on their phone.
Right. And the standalone strategy allowed it to support one-to-one and group voice and video calls, making it a comprehensive communication tool. The Android version famously integrated SMS support and those distinctive chat heads that float on the screen.
What advancements have been made in security and privacy specifically within Messenger, especially given the history of data concerns we're going to explore?
Well, they've integrated several necessary security features. They added optional end-to-end encryption for conversations, meaning only the sender and recipient can read the messages.
And they also launched the App Lock feature for iOS users in July 2020.
Allowing chats to be secured using biometric authentication like Face ID or Touch ID. They also introduced cross-app messaging with Instagram, attempting to unify their major communication networks.
It's worth noting the message editing feature has a very short time limit.
Yes, users can edit messages, but only within a very limited window of 15 minutes. This restriction is likely intended to prevent users from denying previously sent harmful messages.
And we mentioned how Messenger is deeply integrated into business operations. This goes far beyond simple person-to-person chat.
It's now a massive commercial channel. Businesses use Messenger for tracking purchases, sending notifications, and handling real-time customer service. Developers are heavily encouraged to build specialized chatbots for things like booking appointments or ordering food.
And in the US, they even launched the M Virtual Assistant,
which uses AI to scan chats for keywords. If you discuss money, for example, M suggests initiating payment via the platform's payment system. It's moving beyond just conversation into transactional services.
Shifting back to the growth trajectory, Facebook's ascent was truly exponential, demonstrating a scale previously unheard of in the internet age.
It was record-breaking growth that validated their technical innovation and global expansion efforts. They reached 1 billion monthly active users in October 2012.
A huge psychological and technical threshold to cross.
It was. And just 5 years later, in June 2017, they crossed the 2 billion user threshold. That's 1 billion new users added in half a decade.
But the documents highlight that this rise hasn't been consistent across all regions, particularly in the domestic U.S. market, which has begun to slow or even shrink.
That's a key observation that signals market maturity. Between 2017 and 2019, the percentage of the U.S. population over the age of 12 using the platform declined noticeably.
That represented a drop of about 15 million U.S. users, and this trend was especially pronounced among younger Americans.
Yes, specifically those aged 12 to 34 who were flocking to newer, more visual platforms. This slowing growth in its most lucrative market has led some commentators to openly speculate about the platform's eventual decline in relevance to younger generations.
However, globally, the user base remains immense and heavily concentrated in high-growth developing nations.
The demographic shift is stark. As of 2023, the highest numbers of users are now concentrated in India and the United States, followed by Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, and the Philippines.
The Asia-Pacific region in particular became the engine of growth.
In 2018, that region accounted for 947 million users, dominating the combined European and North American user bases. The platform is now fundamentally a global product, not primarily a North American one.
This massive global scale immediately brings the company into tension with different regulatory and governmental entities worldwide, often resulting in censorship.
That's inevitable when operating across so many differing legal and political systems. The service has been blocked intermittently or permanently in multiple major countries.
Most notably China, which maintains strict control over foreign social media, but also Iran and Syria.
Often due to political unrest or the hosting of content deemed subversive by the ruling regimes. And the company itself enforces internal content restrictions globally.
They maintain bans on users promoting vape, tobacco, or weapons across their services.
They do, though enforcement can be inconsistent. We also see explicit tension with regulators. For instance, in Thailand, authorities threatened legal action against the company in 2020 for allegedly ignoring requests to take down content deemed illegal under local laws.
In 2021, the parent company underwent a significant corporate rebranding. Why the name change to Meta?
The rebranding to Meta reflected a huge, existential, strategic focus shift. Recognizing the plateauing growth of the core Facebook product, the company pivoted towards building the metaverse.
A vision centered on virtual and augmented reality experiences.
Exactly. This move signaled that the company's identity was no longer solely tied to the social network, but rather to the technological infrastructure that would power the next generation of digital interaction.
From a purely financial standpoint, the company has historically attracted immense criticism for its global tax strategies.
Yes. The documents confirm the historical use of complex financial arrangements, such as the infamous double Irish arrangement. This involves shifting international revenue through two separate Irish subsidiaries and often into tax havens.
To effectively minimize the amount of corporation tax paid on its international earnings.
Right. While technically legal in certain jurisdictions at the time, this practice drew extensive international criticism for what many viewed as aggressive tax avoidance.
And the most immediate challenge remains antitrust and regulatory scrutiny, particularly in the United States, focused on its market dominance.
The pressure is continuous. The company have been under intense investigation by the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC. The most serious action came in December 2020.
That's when the FTC, backed by a coalition of 48 state attorneys general, filed separate lawsuits seeking antitrust action.
And the primary goal of these lawsuits was to unwind the high-profile acquisitions of Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014.
What is the core legal argument in these sweeping actions?
The suits assert that these acquisitions were anti-competitive maneuvers. The company didn't acquire Instagram or WhatsApp to integrate them seamlessly. They acquired them, according to the complaints, to eliminate potent competitive threats.
So by stifling competition, the lawsuits argued, the company maintained its dominance.
Which led directly to reduced consumer choice and, critically, weakening privacy measures, because users had no viable alternative to switch to. The outcome of these massive regulatory battles will determine the future landscape of social media competition.
Turning now to privacy. This is arguably the most consistent and frankly damaging area of criticism for the platform. It seems the entire revenue model is fundamentally built around maximizing data collection.
That is the crucial observation. The entire foundation of their financial success is targeted advertising, and targeted advertising cannot exist without analyzing vast, intimate amounts of user data.
And this data isn't just what users input themselves, it's data harvested from their behavior, often purchased from third parties, gathered from both online and offline sources.
That's right. The platform maintains that it provides advertisers with only generalized demographic and interest information. For example, that an ad was seen by a woman between 25 and 34 who likes software engineering. But the depth of the data used to create those profiles remains staggering.
And the definition of what data they collect extends far beyond the boundaries of the platform itself, encompassing information that is often invisible to the user. This is the concept of shadow profiles. I want to take a moment to really explore what a shadow profile is and why it's so contentious.
A shadow profile is essentially a comprehensive dossier the company compiles about an individual. including individuals who do not even have an active account, without their explicit informed permission.
And the mechanism for this collection is ubiquitous. A prime example is the like button or tracking pixel embedded on millions of third-party websites.
Exactly. When you visit those sites, even if you are logged out of the platform or don't have an account, the pixel reports your browsing activity back to the company.
So simply by visiting a clothing store or a news site that has a like button embedded, the platform is tracking that activity.
It is. And another major vector is when a registered user uploads their entire contact list to the platform to find friends. That upload allows the platform to collect and store the names and email addresses of non-users who may have never consented to being tracked.
The inherent injustice of this practice is the complete lack of transparency for the individual being profiled. A non-user may be completely unaware that a file exists on them.
Precisely. And they have no tools to inspect or control it. Registered users can download and inspect the data they have explicitly provided to the site, but the critical information belonging to their shadow profile, the third-party browsing data, the non-user email addresses, is not included in that download.
This systematic, aggressive data collection practice reached a crisis point that became a household name: the Cambridge Analytica data scandal in 2018. We need to detail the mechanism of that failure.
This was a monumental breach of user trust and a failure of platform oversight. The scandal centered on a researcher named Alexander Kogan, who created a personality quiz app called This Your Digital Life.
And crucially, due to a loophole in the platform's API at the time, the app harvested not just data from the approximately 270,000 people who willingly used it, but also vast amounts of private data from their friends.
Ultimately compromising information on over 87 million users without their knowledge or consent. And then that harvested data was sold.
It was sold to a political consulting firm, Customer Global Science Research, which then shared it with Cambridge Analytica.
Who utilized the psychological profiles derived from the data for targeted political advertising and messaging, including during the 2016 U.S. election cycle.
The company's initial response to the exposure was heavily criticized as dismissive.
They initially tried to downplay it, suggesting the firm no longer possessed the data, but internal reviews proved this was false. The violation was severe because it breached an existing consent decree they had with the Federal Trade Commission.
Meaning massive penalties were imminent?
Yes, the consequences were profound. The FTC fined the company $5 billion, which remains the largest penalty ever imposed for violating consumer privacy protections.
And the fine was accompanied by an unprecedented governance mandate, wasn't it?
It was. The FTC imposed sweeping new privacy restrictions and a 20-year settlement order allowing the FTC to monitor compliance. This was intended to force a fundamental change in how the company manages user privacy.
Following the international outcry and congressional hearings, Zuckerberg issued a highly publicized public apology,
acknowledging the breach of trust. But the data security failures continued. In 2019, we saw the catastrophic Data Spy leak.
Data Spy was another catastrophic event that highlighted vulnerabilities far outside the platform's intended controls. This incident involved compromised browser extensions that harvested data from millions of users globally.
And it exposed private Facebook photos and, disturbingly, private Facebook Messenger attachments, including highly sensitive documents like tax returns and medical records.
How are these highly sensitive documents accessed? What was the mechanism?
It was an exploitation of unique time-limited URLs. When a user sends a private image or document via Messenger, the platform generates a unique URL for that asset that should only be accessible for a limited time.
And the compromised browser extensions were able to track and capture those intended to be secure URLs.
Yes, allowing the data provider to offer third parties real-time access to the content within the platform's supposedly restricted time frame. It showed how a small, compromised element could expose the entire network.
And that kind of large-scale scraping is particularly dangerous because it allows foreign entities to harvest and store data for things like training sophisticated facial recognition systems, bypassing the platform's security entirely.
Absolutely. Beyond these intentional exploitations, we must also acknowledge continuous failures in internal security protocol. In 2018, data of 50 million users was exposed in a major breach.
And then there was the more recent and truly negligent revelation in 2024.
When Meta paid a $101 million fine for the egregious practice of storing up to 600 million Facebook and Instagram user passwords in plain text.
In plain text, unsecured. And this practice dated back to 2012.
Highlighting a gross, long-term failure in basic security hygiene. Finally, the documents confirm that the company has actively engaged in harvesting competitor data, suggesting that corporate espionage was an integrated part of their strategy.
This is through their acquisition of the Israeli mobile analytics company Onavo in 2013.
They marketed the Onavo Protect VPN app as a tool to protect user privacy. However, multiple media outlets classified it as spyware because it was used to secretly collect vast amounts of information on users' web traffic and app usage.
Even when they were using other services, so it provided them with critical market intelligence on competitors.
Information that informed crucial decisions, including the timing and rationale for the WhatsApp acquisition. And this evolved into the highly alarming Project Ghostbusters.
What was Project Ghostbusters?
Internal documents made public in 2024 detailed this project, initiated around 2016. This was an active campaign specifically designed to compete with Snapchat. It involved developing decryption tools to collect, decrypt, and analyze traffic generated when users visited Snapchat.
And later, the scope expanded to include YouTube and Amazon.
They accomplished this by using man-in-the-middle attacks via the Onavo app, allowing them to read users' encrypted web traffic that should have been secure. This wasn't just market research, it was an intelligence operation.
Given the platform's ability to monitor traffic and its global reach, we must now examine the profound political and societal impact it exerts, often resulting in devastating real-world harm. This starts with the dilemma of content moderation.
The company is trapped between two impossible extremes. On one hand, they are intensely criticized for allowing objectionable content to proliferate graphic violence, dangerous conspiracy theories, and organized hate speech.
And on the other, they are criticized for censoring political viewpoints or being opaque about their moderation decisions.
They can't win. What is acceptable speech in one country is illegal incitement in another. And this moderation duty is not carried out by sophisticated AI alone. It relies heavily on human beings who bear a devastating emotional burden.
And we must pause to reflect on the immense human cost of this system. Content moderators are routinely exposed to the worst content the internet has to offer.
Child abuse, violent acts, mass atrocities. This exposure leads to significant psychological trauma. In 2020, U.S.-based moderators received a $52 million settlement to compensate them for post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, suffered on the job.
That number puts a financial value on the destruction of mental health caused by the company's need to police its own platform.
On a global political scale, the platform has been directly implicated in inciting violence and persecution. This is perhaps the most serious charge leveled against it.
The evidence here is chilling and unambiguous.
It is. The platform was accused of bearing direct responsibility for anti-Rohingya propaganda used by Myanmar's military to fuel genocide and ethnic cleansing. The military used the platform to spread dehumanizing, hateful posts that mobilized physical violence against the Muslim minority population.
Similarly, research suggests the platform fueled anti-refugee attacks in Germany.
By allowing the targeted spread of misinformation and xenophobic rhetoric, the platform became a highly efficient tool for state-sponsored incitement.
And when we talk about hate speech amplification, the ad system itself has demonstrated a systemic vulnerability to being exploited.
Unfortunately, yes. The ad system's targeting features, built on those rich shadow profiles we discussed, allowed pitches to be directed at nearly 2,300 people who had actively expressed interest in topics identified as Jew hater.
The system provided the mechanism for users to categorize themselves in a manner that facilitated discriminatory advertising.
Furthermore, the company has faced sustained criticism for profiting from advertisements that utilize the anti-LGBTQ slur groomer, despite acknowledging internally that this language clearly violates its own hate speech policies.
It's important to note where they have taken definitive action, such as regarding Holocaust denial.
They finally responded to years of lobbying in October 2020 by banning Holocaust denial content from their platforms. This demonstrated the power the company has to shape historical narrative and political discourse.
One of the most significant documented issues involves coordinated inauthentic behavior, or CIB.
CIB is the signature method state actors use to manipulate political discourse. It's the sophisticated process of creating networks of fake pages and accounts, designed purely to stir up political debate and sow discord.
The Russian interference leading up to the 2016 U.S. election is the most famous example. Russian operatives purchased over $100,000 worth of ads, targeting specific demographics.
And the goal of that interference wasn't necessarily to support one particular candidate, was it?
That's the critical subtlety. Their goal was polarization. They weren't just pushing pro-Trump or pro-Clinton ads. They were attempting to tear American society apart.
By organizing contradictory rallies on U.S. soil, simultaneously funding both Black Lives Matter rallies and anti-immigrant rallies, ensuring maximum internal friction and distrust in democratic institutions.
And this political weaponization is not limited to U.S. elections. We see it in major developing markets where the company's growth is concentrated, like India.
Yes, the documents reveal internal political tension in India. Internal messages show that a Facebook executive supported the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and opposed taking necessary action against anti-Muslim content, reflecting perceived political favoritism.
This happens as the company aggressively seeks more business in the country.
Suggesting that commercial interests may influence content moderation decisions. The Delhi Assembly even launched an investigation in 2020 into the platform's role in local religious riots.
The ultimate test of the company's governance and its ethical responsibility lies in the devastating real-world consequences suffered by individual victims. We have to give these cases the respect they deserve.
These stories are vital and deeply saddening. The platform has served as a point of contact for terrible crimes. A Texan woman sued the company, claiming she was recruited into the sex trade via the network at age 15. The platform was the initial vector for her exploitation.
And in another terrible example, the case of Ayat al-Khormezi in Bahrain highlights how the service can be used by authoritarian regimes to identify, capture, and prosecute dissidents.
By tracking their digital footprint and connections. And what about the system of protected figures, where certain high-profile accounts seemed exempt from moderation rules?
That concern arose in the lawsuit filed by a Syrian schoolboy who was bullied online. Claims were raised that prominent figures were protected from scrutiny and disciplinary action,
Suggesting that the enforcement of rules is sometimes dependent on the profile of the user, rather than the severity of the violation. These examples demonstrate that the platform's power creates real-world safety crises that go far beyond what its founders likely ever imagined.
Despite the profound controversies, it is crucial to recognize that the platform fundamentally restructured the global digital economy and had massive cultural effects. You cannot deny the powerful economic engine it created.
Economically, it provided an open development platform that spawned a colossal app economy. Most famously, social gaming companies like Zynga, known for hits like Farmville.
This ecosystem was hugely lucrative. An econometric analysis conducted as early as 2011 estimated that the app development platform alone generated over 182,000 jobs in the U.S. economy,
Amounting to an economic value of about $12 billion annually. That level of economic spinoff is immense.
Culturally, the service defined modern digital interaction. Think about the language it created.
It fundamentally shifted social vocabulary. The term for removing a connection on the site, the verb unfriend, was so pervasive that it was declared the new Oxford American Dictionary Word of the Year in 2009.
And the entire founding history, controversies and all, was famously captured and immortalized in the acclaimed 2010 film The Social Network,
Cementing its place in popular culture. The company has also made significant strides in responding to early criticisms regarding its environmental impact.
particularly concerning the massive energy consumption of its data centers.
That was a major historical criticism. However, in 2021, the company announced that its global operations are now supported by 100% renewable energy sources, and it has successfully reached net zero emissions across its operations.
But the positive economic and environmental strides stand in stark contrast to the persistent negative personal and emotional health impacts associated with this high level of digital connection.
Studies repeatedly link excessive usage to significant negative feelings. This includes general stress and, crucially, significant feelings of envy and low self-esteem.
This phenomenon is often triggered by viewing friends' highly curated and idealized vacation, holiday, or relationship posts,
Leading users to engage in social comparison that fosters dissatisfaction with their own lives.
Well,
And the correlation between usage and lower well-being seems robust.
especially when we look at experimental studies.
They're very convincing. A major 2020 experimental study published in the American Economic Review confirmed that when users were instructed to deactivate the service for a set period, they reported increased subjective well-being.
Providing strong evidence that stepping away from the platform demonstrably benefits mental health.
Yet the company itself pointed to a critical distinction in how people use the service, suggesting not all activity is equally harmful.
That distinction is between active and passive use, and it's a vital insight for anyone using the platform.
The company highlighted internal research showing that passively consuming the newsfeed, meaning merely scrolling and reading without interacting, is what correlates strongly with negative feelings, like that envy and low mood.
Conversely, actively engaging and interacting with friends' messages and content, or posting yourself, points to actual improvements in subjective well-being.
The takeaway is that it's the passive consumption that is psychologically damaging.
So, what does this all mean for us as users and observers? The documents we have explored illustrate a powerful global force, documented by its roots in academic networking, defined by its highly complex technical architecture, and profoundly shaped by its sometimes destructive social and political influence.
The full journey through this material shows that persistent governance issues, like the shocking lack of human customer support, forcing victims of account breaches to pursue remedies through small claims, could exist right alongside massive, world-changing technological innovation.
When we consider the sheer, unprecedented power vested in a single company and its leadership, which one co-founder stated is unprecedented and un-American, we are left with the essential question.
What responsibilities should this platform bear? And what mechanisms are truly needed to ensure the rights and safety of its billions of users globally? That governance failure, coupled with the technological marvel, is the essential dichotomy we leave you to ponder.
Thanks for listening.